بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So alhamdulillah, last week we finished the introduction of the Imam, and today inshallah we will start with the first book, Kitab al-Tahara. I think we previously said that the word kitab from the Arabic language comes from the masdar kataba. You know, every word in the Arabic language generally goes back to a root word consisting of 3 letters usually. You know, and from those 3 letters you can make many words. So the root word of kitab, book, is kataba. So kataba yaktubu kitaban, right? Maktab, the place that you write on. Katib, the one who writes. Maktub, the thing that is written. And you can do this with, you know, most of the Arab, the language in the Arab, with the Arabic words. So kitab comes from kataba, which means, which we understand it as to write, but also it means to put together. And in this sense, you know, they say that when you write kitab, you put words together, or you put letters together to make words, and you put words together to make sentences, and you put sentences together to make paragraphs, and then paragraphs make chapters, and chapters make books. So anytime we have in the fiqh books you see kitab, it usually comprises of something that's like a bigger subject, right? So there's like multiple subjects in one kitab. So he starts off with Kitab al-Tahara, the book of purification. And Tahara, it comes from the meaning of purification, and to, you know, the type of purification, we have 3 types. So there's spiritual purification, that's, you know, tazkiyah, when you purify the nafs, you purify the soul, you purify the heart. And then there is the physical purification, when you remove the impurities from a place or from yourself or from something that you're going to use. And then there is the ritual purification, which is the wudu and the ghusl and the tayammum, right? Removing the ritual impurities. It comes from the word meaning cleanliness and removal of dirt or removal of filth. And tahara is what they say in the Arabic language, ma'nawiyan, where it's like we describe that it's something that you can't really see, you know, in the spiritual sense or the ritual sense, and hissiyan, which is that you can actually see it, right? So to give you another example, say that you call somebody short or tall, right? That's something that you can see, right? That's hissiyan, something that you can actually physically understand and see. But if you say somebody is, you know, a poet or a just person or a wise person, something like that, that's ma'nawiyah, something that you can't really see, but that person has those characteristics. So same thing with like purification. There's physical purification that you can see when there's like filth somewhere or dirt somewhere and you wash it off and it's cleaned. And then there's the spiritual or the ritual purification, which, you know, you don't necessarily see it, but it's there. Is that understood? And then he starts with the Kitab al-Tahara, the book of purification. And in fiqh you'll see that there's Kitab al-Ibadat, or, you know, Abwab al-Ibadat or Kutub al-Ibadat, and Kutub al-Mu'amalat. So in general, fiqh can be divided into 2 major categories: the fiqh of worship, and then the fiqh of interactions, right? Like business transactions, marriage, you know, other regulations, etc. Those are under mu'amalat. And the ibadat are, you know, the salat, the zakat, the siyam, and the hajj. Marriage sometimes goes in between because it comprises both ibadah and mu'amalat. So the scholars, they usually start with ibadat because that's what we're created to do, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the humans or the jinn except that they should worship me. Ibadah, that's our purpose in life. And that's why the scholars, when they write the books of fiqh, they start with the most important thing, which is the ibadah. طيب, what's the most important ibadah? Salat, right? So why didn't the Imam start with Kitab al-Salat, the book of prayer? It is number one, yes, it is the most important. So, and we're saying that he started with the fiqh of ibadat, but why is he starting with tahara instead of salat? Like he starts with the book of purification instead of the book of salat. So next chapter will be the book of salat, but the first chapter he starts with is tahara. Why is that? If salat is the most important thing. Exactly. You cannot establish the salah until you purify yourself, right? And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ وَمَرَافِقُ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Allah says that, when you get up to do the prayers, and He mentions the body parts that we need to wash and wipe over in order to be established. And the Prophet ﷺ says, لا يقبل صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not open or accept the prayers of any of you until, if they have broken their ritual purity, until they make wudu or have tahara, right? And tahara is miftah as-salat, that's the key to open the salat. So that's why the Imam, rahimahullah ta'ala, he starts with the chapter of the salat. He goes in, a very, like most of the ulama in the books of fiqh, they go with like in an order that's very logical, And when you study it in detail, you appreciate the work that they did and the way they set things up. So he starts off with, the rulings on the types of water. What is water? What kind of water can we use for purification, right? And then he goes into the vessels and the utensils. Why? Because if you have water, how are you gonna hold the water to make the wudu or to make the ghusl, right? So you need utensils. And then he goes into the chapter of how to use the bathroom or the lavatory correctly, right? So now you're going to, you have the water, you have the utensils, and now you have the ability to clean yourself when you're using the restroom. And then that means when you use the restroom, you are breaking the wudu, so you're going to require for wudu. So the next chapter after that is what? Wudu. And then he goes on to, the other finer points of the wudu, of wiping over the socks, right? After talking that. We're going to go through all these chapters inshallah, but just so you can understand the wisdom of the Imam. And then he goes into those things that nullify the wudu, right? What breaks the wudu. And then he goes into the major ablution. So you have minor and major ablution. Wudu is the minor one, and ghusl, washing, is the major one. And then he goes into, say you don't have the water available to make major or minor ablution. What do? Tayammum. You're allowed to use the earth, right? SubhanAllah, as a alternative to the water. And then, if that's not there, you have, and then he goes on to talk about those things that nullify or cause the major ablution, which is the menstruation, and then the postpartum bleeding, which is specifically for the women. And all these 10 sub-chapters are under Kitab al-Tahara. Which when you go back and you see like how he's written it, you appreciate the book even more, and you appreciate the scholar's knowledge even more. Like they do everything with the wisdom, subhanAllah, even the order of the books that they start with. So then we go, to the first chapter, which is the general rulings concerning the water, right? Bab Ahkam al-Miya. The chapter or the sub-chapter of the rulings on the different types of water. طيب. Bab, what is bab in Arabic? Door, right? So this is like an entryway into the chapter, right? So you're opening the door to this part of the chapter and this part of the knowledge, which covers the ahkam of al-miya, right? So entering in through this door to understand what types of water are we able to use, or what types of water is there? What are the types of water? Ahkam comes from the word hukum, which is the rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, right? And تحكم بين الناس بالحق, that you should rule between the people with justice and truth. And hukum is wada'iyya, right? There are certain rules or regulations or laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down that are not related in a sense to like your particular actions, but your actions can't be done without them. So I'll explain. Hukum al-wadiyya is like, for example, you cannot do salat until the time comes in, right? So like conditions of the salat, so if the salat comes in, it doesn't necessarily mean that your salat is correct or not salat, but or not correct, but it does mean that the salat is in. So it's not related to your particular actions. And then there is ahkam at-taklifiyya. These are the rulings or laws that relate to your particular actions. Are your actions wajib, obligatory? Do you guys know them? Let me test you guys. What are the 5 ahkam? The 5 rulings when it relates to our deeds and our actions. So I gave you the first one, obligatory, wajib. Mustahab, preferred. Give someone else a chance. Give someone else a chance. Haram is another one. Halal is mubah, maybe you can say mubah is the correct one. And then makruh, right? So wajib is obligatory. Those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded, and if we don't do them, we set ourselves up for a punishment, like a sin, right? So it's obligatory for us to do that. Mustahab is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the Prophet ﷺ have ordered us with, but we don't have punishment if we don't do it. It's something that's preferred, extra good deeds, basically. And mubah is something that, it's not, you don't get any sin for it if you do it or you leave it, right? It's something that anybody can do, like something that...
Is this related to the 6 days fasting?
The 6 what?
The 6 days fasting.
No. Oh, well, yeah. Yes. The 6 days of fasting would be an example of mustahab, something that's preferred or liked or commendable, right? Very good, mashallah. Or the sunan prayers, right? The sunnah that you do afterwards. That's like mustahab. Like, mubah would be like what? Well, let me start with wajib. Wajib would be salat, for example, the faridah, the 5 daily prayers, the obligatory prayers. We said mubah can be the extra fasting or the extra sunan prayers. Something mubah would be what? So, sorry, wajib, mustahab, something preferred. Mubah was an example of mubah, something that's okay. Sleeping. What else? Eating, right? Mubah though, something that's unique about it, you can change it from something that is just like with no reward to something that has reward if you make your intention for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So say for example, sleeping, like he said, is just mubah. But if you sleep with the intention that I want to sleep with, to gain strength to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to be healthy, or to help get up in the morning and help my family make some money so I can support my family, and all these tensions, you're getting reward inshallah. When you eat, if you say Bismillah, you're eating in the name of Allah, you're thanking Allah for this gift that He's given you, and you're using it to get strong, to worship Him, and to help His deen. You get rewarded for it, inshallah. Exercise, all these things that are mubah, you can turn them into something that is, rewarded. So that's a special thing. Then makruh is something that is disliked, right? It's you're commendable to leave this thing, not to do it. However, you're not punished for doing it, right? And then, what's something that's makruh, for example?
Using toilet for standing.
That's debatable, yeah, but some scholars say that, yes. Because, so, we can say that it's mustahab to sit down while you're using the restroom, for men as well, obviously. But some scholars say that standing up is disliked, for the men. And some say no, it's because the Prophet ﷺ did it sometimes on some occasions standing up, but it depends on the circumstances. As long as you can, not get yourself dirty or something like that, it's fine. But say, for example, oh, mashallah, I didn't know we had somebody here. Yes, eating. Well, eating with your left hand, it could be makruh or it could be haram. Because there's a direct prohibition from the Prophet ﷺ who says that don't eat with your left hand, for verily the shaitan eats with his left hand, right? If a person is, missing his right hand, obviously then he's forgiven, but in general, yes, wasting money, and wasting money could also be, it's generally disliked, makruh, but it could be something that is muharram as well, right? If you go to the point of extravagantly wasting your money at the point that is causing your family hardship, or you're not able to support your family, then it turns in from makruh to haram, right? So you find a lot of these ahkam, sometimes there is like a finer detail between them. And then haram is something that if you do it, you get the potential punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is, can anybody give me an example? Leaving the salat, for example, right? That's a major sin. Drinking alcohol. Yes, all the major sins, basically. Praying, yes, according to some of that, this is somebody saying that praying the obligatory prayers at home when you have the ability to pray in the masjid, according to some scholars, that is also makruh, disliked. Right, so good example. Jazakumullah khair. Praying. So many scholars, they say to pray in the masjid with the if you pray at home when you have the ability, for the men, especially for the men, if you pray at home when you have the ability to pray in the masjid, it's disliked. There's one madhab that's like very extreme, the Zahiriyah. They actually say that your salah is not accepted because if you're like living next to a masjid, you don't go pray in the jama'ah. But that's a minority opinion. The majority of scholars say it's fine, but it's preferred to pray in the masjid.
So what if, like for example, you're mentioning if you live next to the masjid, and I think it was mentioned in the hadith that if you hear the adhan, make sure your home is near the masjid, you hear the adhan and you stay at home. Is that wrong or?
So it's like I said, according to some scholars, it is, if you hear the adhan and you're able to hear the adhan, you live close enough to hear the adhan, then you should attend the masjid, because at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, only the hypocrites would not show up, right? Or, there's one narration where a blind sahabi, radiallahu anhu, he asked, the permission if he could just pray at home because he was blind. And then the Prophet ﷺ agreed, but then he said, wait a minute, do you hear the adhan? And he said, yes. And he said, then you should go to the masjid. So imagine if that's for a blind person. Imagine if you're not blind and you're healthy and you live right next to the masjid, right? But we'll get to this, inshallah, the chapter of salat. We'll try to get through chapter of tahara first, inshallah. So the Imam, he says, Bab ahkam al-miyah. So we said ahkam, like we said, there's wad'iyah and taklifiyah, which we went through. So wad'iyah is those things that are like conditional, right, that are outside the basically like our own abilities, something like the rising of the sun or setting of the sun, these type of things, right? Those are something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts for us to follow, but it's not related directly to our actions. And then the taklifiyah is something that we're responsible personally for, right? So performing the wudu correctly, performing the salat correctly, the zakat, the siyam, etc. Staying away from the haram, doing the wajibat. And then al-miyah, the Imam, he, in his wisdom, he says miyah is a plural of ma, right? Ma is water, and miyah is like waters. So he's showing us with this one word that in this chapter there's going to be different types of waters, right? And this is the wisdom of the Imam. He could have just said the chapter of water, but he says the chapter concerning the different rulings of the different types of waters, meaning that there's many types of waters. There's water that comes from the heavens. There's water in the ocean. There's water in the river, right? There's clean water. There's dirty water. There's things that are mixed with water that changes. So there's different types of waters, and then there's different types of rulings with those waters, right? So he's preparing us. Okay, what's coming now? We're going to start talking about the waters that we can use to purify ourselves. Yes, the garlic smell. Just to include the person on the online. They said that when you come to the masjid with like garlic smell in your breath or bad breath, or some people come with like smoke, smelling like smoke and stuff like that, that is disliked as well, like makruh. Jazakallah khair. So the types of water, the Imam, he starts off with خُلِقَ الْمَاءُ طَهُورًا. يطهر من الأحداث والنجاسات ولا تحصل الطهارة بماء غيره. He says that water was created pure and it is purifying. It purifies from the ritual impurities and it removes the physical impurities, and purification cannot be obtained with any other liquid besides it. And we'll go into the explanation inshaAllah. The pure types of water is the water that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down from the heavens, right? وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً طُهُورًا. Allah says that He sent down from the heavens pure water. So we know that rainwater, or gathered rainwater, is pure. Ocean water is also pure. You might ask, well, there's salt in it? Yes. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was asked the same question. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu, they said that we travel, on our ships sometimes, and we only have enough water to drink. If we use that water for wudu, we might not have enough to carry us through for drinking water. So are we allowed to make wudu from the ocean? And he said, هُوَ الطُّهُورُ مَاءُهُ وَمَيْتَتُهُ. That its water is pure, and even anything that's in it, like for eating, even if it's like a dead fish or something like that, it's pure for us to eat, right? So the ocean water has a special ruling. Also, the waters that are flowing in general. What are some examples of flowing water? Rivers. What else? Streams, creeks, wells. The well water, as long as there's major impurities in it, obviously. All these forms of naturally occurring waters are considered halal for us. And this chapter, so tahuran, it comes from the word of tahara. This is the chapter of purification, pure. And we find, subhanAllah, this is something that is a major part of our religion, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ وَيُحِبُّ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ. Allah loves those who repent to Him, and He loves those who purify themselves, right? So Islam is a religion of purity and cleanliness. We have the physical cleanliness, which was why we're encouraged to make the wudu regularly and to take ghusl, washing ourselves completely regularly. And also we have the spiritual cleanliness, where the Muslim is, we try to cleanse our hearts from any type of shirk, any type of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any type of improper hatred or jealousies or envy or lust or all these type of sicknesses. We try to purify ourselves from that spiritually, right? And we have our ritual purification as well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us something special for our ummah, for us to get us in the state of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in order to perform certain ibadat, we require ritual purification, to make salat, to do the hajj, to do the tawaf around the Kaaba. According to some scholars, when you want to read the mushaf, the complete Arabic mushaf. So purification is something that Allah has blessed us with in terms of ritual, spiritual, and physical, right? We are a clean ummah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves cleanliness. And at-tuhur shatrul iman. The Prophet said that cleanliness or purity is part of iman. So therefore, the Imam is starting with this chapter on that pure water, cleanses from the ahdath. Ahdath is ritual, ritual nullification of the purity, right? So it can be from using the restroom, or having sexual relations, or the woman going through her cycle. All these type of things, they break the ritual purification. The Muslim is always physically considered pure, but ritually, in these certain states, he's considered ritually impure, so requires purification. And that's what the Imam is saying, that the pure water cleanses ritually, and it cleanses the physical impurities, right? You use water to wash away physical, or to clean physical impurities, right? So if some impurities get upon the clothing or the place of prayer or your skin, you're supposed to wash it off to cleanse it. So pure water is the only type of water that can wash away or first, perform the ritual purification with it, and it's the only type of water that can cleanse the impure water. And he says, وَلَا تَحْصُلَ الطَّهَارَ بِمَاءٍ غَيْرِهِ. And tahara, purification, cannot be established with any type of other liquid than the pure liquid. So the types of water, we can say, are three main types. So tahur is what we're talking about right now, which is the pure water that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the water with originally, in its original state, right? And hasn't been changed with its color or its taste or its smell. That's pure water, right? That's ma tahur. With this water, what can we do with it? Make ritual ablution, ritual purification, ghusl, right? And what else can we do with it? You can drink it, of course. But when it comes to the ahkam,
Use it to like rinse off najasa.
use it to wash away or cleanse the ritual, the physical impurities. Right? That's ma tahur. And then you have ma tahir. This is water that is clean, pure, but it has changed one of its characteristics, whether it be its scent or its taste or its smell, right? So for example, if something from outside the original state of being of that water comes into the water to the point where it changes its color, or its taste or its smell to something that's considered not water anymore, then you cannot make wudu with that, right? But it's not impure, so you can use it for eating or drinking or cooking or what else could you use it for? Something else, yes. Basically. But you can't use it for doing ritual purification, and you can't use it to remove najasa. Right? So you can't say like, I'm going to make wudu from my cup of coffee, right? Or if you have some water and somebody mixes Kool-Aid in it or something like that, right? If the color obviously is something that's obvious, you can see that's changed. The taste obviously is something that's tangible. The scent, sometimes it has to be something that's changed within the water. The scent to the point where it is changing it from being water originally. So say something like a dead animal fell into the water that you're going to use for the wudu. That scent that changes obviously is something that's tangible. But if it's just something that is in the vicinity of the water and the water picks up that smell, but it's not inside the water, then it's not accounted for, right? And even if it's like a minor things that don't change the water to a greater extent, some scholars consider that as not affecting it as well, because the Prophet ﷺ, he allowed for the kafur in the water of the deceased when they're doing the ghusl for the deceased, right? So the scent is a minor scent there, but it doesn't change the foundation of the water, according to some scholars. The third type of water is the water that is impure. So some type of impurity has fallen into the water, and it's changed one of its three characteristics, right? With that impurity, then that is not permissible to use for personal use or for ritual worship, right? That becomes water najis. So you have, what's the first one? The first category of water? Tahur. What's that, Sister Khadija? What's the second one? What is it? Tahir. Yes, mashallah, Jaid. No, Tahir. And then the third one? What is it? Impure, najis. Very good. Jazakumullah khair. So these are the three types the three categories of water. With the first water, like I said, tahur, you can use it for purification purposes and to remove the najasa. The second one, you can use it for personal use, right? But you can't use it for purification or to remove the najasa. And the third one is, not used for either or, right? Najis has become unusable, basically. Yes. No, the swimming pool, even besides the, a lot of pee in it. What is else different from with the swimming pool? The chemicals. It changes its what? Its color and its scent and its taste, right? So all three have been changed. So you should not use that for wudu. It's okay to swim in it, but not to use for wudu, inshallah, to use something that's pure.
It's not natural, right? They don't mix.
Yes, it's mixed with chemicals and stuff like that. And then Allah knows how much other things are in there that we don't even know about. So, yeah.
Still pure.
What's that?
Water still pure, right?
Which water?
Swimming pool.
No, it's considered tahir but not tahur. Yeah.
Pure, but you're not purified.
Yes.
So that means
If it's changed like to the point where you see yeah. No, yeah, you don't. Unless you see like the pools become yellow or to the point that's very bad, then obvious, then yeah, you'd probably want to take or wash off your body with that anyways, inshallah. But if it's just like the chlorine basically kills most of the those other type of impurities, inshallah. So it's still tahir, it's just not tahur. And then one point too, that ma al najis, the impure water, it doesn't necessarily mean like dirty water. So if you see water mixed with mud or dirt or something like that, that's not najis, because those substances are still pure, right? And even if it's like in a running body of water, for example, even though the color is changed, like sometimes it's like a little bit brown or something like that, that's still considered pure water, right? Because it's not something that's an impure substance, and the body of the water is very huge. It's just like from the naturally occurring substance in that water, right? So that's okay to make wudu from it.
It's an extreme situation, as though like an oil spill in the ocean or something like that.
Yeah, in the ocean, it's almost impossible to change its color, taste, or smell, because it's so vast and so huge. So literally, like, even if like there's sewage being poured into it, you can still make wudu or ghusl from the ocean. Yeah, you don't stand like under the sewage and make wudu, but I'm saying in general, like the ocean is going to be pure enough. Like, some people give the example of it's kind of a little crude, but they say that you can like use the restroom in the ocean and then go and make wudu like right after, or ghusl right after, in almost the same spot, and you'll still be considered under purification, right? Obviously, yeah, you should probably move away from that area, but and I'm not encouraging that either, but I'm just saying there's an example of how pure the ocean is, subhanAllah, because its vastness. طيب. And then the Imam, he says, فإذا بلغ الماء قلتان أو قلتين وكان جاريا لم ينجسه شيئا إلا ما غير لونه أو طعمه أو ريحه، وما سوى ذلك ينجس بمخالة النجاسة، والقلتان ما قارب 108 أرطال بدمشقي. So he says that when the water reaches قلتان is like a measurement. At that time, he considered it like 180 rutal or atal Damascus. It's like a form of weight that they used to use in the Arab world and the Muslim world at the time, way back when. But it just means like it's like two large containers that would be the equivalent, what we would know as like 50 gallons of water. So if something reaches 50 gallons of water, or the water is running water, like we said, in oceans or streams or rivers or lakes and stuff like that, then nothing can render it impure unless it's changed, its color, its taste, or its scent. Then that can become an impurity. Obviously, if it's like a huge amount like that, it's going to take a whole lot of something else to change its color or its taste or its scent, right? And then he says that if it's less than qulatain, it would be rendered impure by mixing with the impurities. So just to break it down, so if it's a large body of water 50 gallons plus, right? We'll say 190 liters, if according to the other measurements. If it doesn't change its color or its taste or its scent, even if some najasa falls into it, it's still pure. Like you can still make wudu with it, right? Rivers, lakes, oceans, creeks, etc., running body water, it doesn't get impure either, unless it gets to the point where it's changed completely its color, its taste, or its scent with something else or something of an impurity. طيب. When it comes to like less than qullatain, there's a difference amongst the scholars. So the Hanabila and the Shafi'iyya, in the most part, they say if it's less than this amount, like not a great body of water, and najasa falls into it, then it renders it impure. So they're not supposed to make wudu from it, right? But the Hanafiya and the Malikiyya and Ibn Taymiyyah from the Hanabila, they say no, as long as it doesn't change its color, its taste, or its scent, and it's a great body of water, you can still make wudu from it. طيب. So everybody's in agreement. If it doesn't change its color, taste, or scent, and it's a big body of water or running water, you can make wudu, purification, washing yourself, ghusl, using it to cleanse, to remove impurities, etc. طيب. Everybody's in agreement. All the scholars agree upon that. Number two, if it changes its color, its taste, or its scent to the point where it becomes something other than water or impurity, then you can, if it's with something that's pure, becomes tahir, you can use it for other things, but you can't use it for purification purposes. If it's changed with the najasa, it becomes impure, you can't use it for personal use or for ritual purification or for cleansing, physical purification, right? So those are all agreed upon. When it comes to less than a large body of water, there's a difference amongst the scholars. Is that clear? So, number one, it's a huge body of water, running water, ocean, etc. What's the ruling? It's pure, right? If it hasn't changed its color, scent, or taste, right? طيب. If it's changed one of those three things, if it's something pure, you can use it for other purposes, and if it's something with impurity, you cannot use it. طيب. If it's less than qullatain, but it doesn't change its color or its taste or its scent, but some impurities fall into it, what happens here? According to the Imam, yes, you should not use it. So, yes, this Imam and most of them, Hanabila and the Shafi'i, say you cannot use it. The Malikiyya and the Hanafiya and other scholars, even Ibn Taymiyyah and some of the other Hanabila, say no, you can, because it didn't change its color or its taste or its scent, so it's fine. And I think there's some evidence for that. It's a stronger opinion, especially if there's no other alternatives. So say like that's the only source of water that's available, and you can't see any noticeable change of scent or taste or color, then I think their opinion is strong, because there's a hadith it's called Bir al-Budaa, where it was a well which has a lot of water, obviously, but the people used to throw their impure things into that well, right? And the Prophet ﷺ says that the water is pure, la yunajjisuhu shay'a, that water is pure, it's not corrupted or becomes doesn't become impure, meaning that scholars understood that as long as it hasn't changed its color or its taste or its scent, then you can use it, inshallah, to make it easy for the ummah. But if you want to be a strict Hanbali, then no, you cannot use it. You want to follow that opinion, inshallah khair. طيب. وإن طبخ في الماء ما ليس بطهور وكذلك ما خالطه فغلب على اسمه واستعمل في رفع حدث صلب طهوريته. So he says that if something is pure but not purifying, right? Whether it's cooked in water or mixed with water, and it changes its name or its characteristics, so basically it's changing its color or its taste or its scent, or it was used in removing a ritual impurity, then it would be stripped of its attribute of being a purifier, like being ma' tuhur, right? So basically he's saying that, if something changes the characteristic of the water, whether it be its smell, its taste, or its scent, or you cook something in it, where, like, for example, when you make like a broth, right? Then that water becomes something else. It's not water anymore, right? So if I mixed like coffee or tea or Kool-Aid or cooked something in it, it loses its original meaning of tuhur and becomes tahir, something that's pure, that you're able to use, personal use, but it's not tuhur. You can't use it for removing ritual impurification or physical impurities. And then also he mentions that if you use it, so if somebody makes wudu and that water is left over, for example, or she makes ghusl and there's water left over from them, according to the Imam, it loses its ability to be tuhur now. It becomes tahir. So you cannot use it, according to the Imam, for purification purposes. And this also, so I'll mention like if there's like a major difference of opinion within the madhab or outside the madhab in certain issues, like this one, for example. Even in the madhab, some of the scholars, they say that no, because there's a clear hadith that the Prophet ﷺ اغتسل وميمونة من إناء واحد في قصة فيها أثر العجين, that the Prophet ﷺ and his wife Maymuna, they washed from a single like container, and even that container had some like flour marks left in the container, subhanAllah, but they used it to perform ghusl together. So these scholars, like the Malikiya, the Zahiriya, Ibn Taymiyyah, and some of the Hanabila and some of the Shafi'iyya, like it's a minority opinion in this madhab, they say that that's proof that it's okay to use the water that somebody else used, because the people, the Muslims, are not najis, they don't make the water impure, right? Especially if you have a limited amount of water and something like that. It's just a small container, but so the Imam is saying that if somebody uses the water, you can't use it afterwards to use it for purification purposes. So if like say the husband or the wife made wudu with it and there's some water left over, they say that has lost its ability to purify. The other scholars, they say no, the Prophet ﷺ, he made wudu or ghusl from the same vessel that Maymuna, his wife, made ghusl from, so it means that it's still able to purify, right? So it's a difference of opinion amongst the ulama, yeah. So the Imam here, if you want to we just stick to the book only, we can't use that water. But I'm just telling you like the other opinions, because even within the madhab with the Hanabila, there's a difference of opinion, and some of the other madhabs too. So on these issues, do you guys prefer me to mention it or just keep it one opinion? Mention it? Okay. Because technically, like for beginning level, I should just mention one opinion, but I see you guys are kind of advanced, inshallah, so I'm going to mention more than let me just finish this part. So another point, like we said, if the substance is naturally occurring in the water in nature, then that's not counted as like changing its color or its taste or its scent, right? Can anybody give me an example? I gave you one example, like the mud in the water, right? In the river, for example. Can anybody give me another example? Yeah, so water that's color, for example, has changed from its original, clear to something else. If it's a naturally occurring substance, like we said, like if it's a bank of the river, and it's like muddy, the water is like muddy or something like that, its color is brown, but it's still tahur, because that's a naturally occurring substance in that water, right? Or for example, algae, like the green or the red algae in the ocean sometimes, right? It makes the color of the water different, right? But it's still considered pure. You can still make it. So that's like exemption from the rule. And some scholars say that like if it's just a tiny bit, of change, not like to a point where it becomes something other than water, they say that it's like forgiven as well. And they use the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of, washing the deceased person with some of the kafur, right? This hadith we mentioned too, like there's a little bit of flour left in the bowl of the water, right? It doesn't change the water completely. So only if you see like a noticeable change in the scent or the taste or the smell, that's when it becomes something other than water and you can't use it for purification purposes. But if it's a naturally occurring substance or if it's a very minute thing, inshallah, you can use it for purification purposes. Another issue that some scholars, discuss is that what if the water is in a different state? What do I mean? Yes, mashallah. Like it's snow or ice or hail, right? What's the hukum of that? Can we make wudu with it or no? Yes. MashaAllah. What's your proof? How do you prove it? It came from the sky? Yes, it's pure. It's from the sky, MashaAllah. There's also a nice hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, and we say it in the opening prayer sometimes. Allahumma aghsilni bi ma with thilj wa barad, right? Allah, cleanse me with the water and the ice and the hail. So some scholars use that as well as evidence that these are considered still pure substances if you don't have the liquid form, right? But if you're using the ice to make wudu, it becomes melted, so you can actually see the water coming out of it. Same thing with the snow, same thing with the hail and stuff like that. It becomes water. So what's that? Minerals? Mineral water? Yeah, I think that's okay because that's naturally occurring substances in the water. That's fine, inshallah. Even I guess you could say carbonated water, something like that, because it's still naturally occurring, hasn't changed its taste or its color or its scent, right? Not the flavored ones, but just the regular ones. So steam, same thing, steam as well. So anything that you can, get the ability to cover the parts of the wudu with it, it's okay, inshallah, as long as it's from the pure water, originally from pure water substance or equivalent to. Okay, next chapter is the doubts, inshallah. Well, the next section in this chapter is about the doubts. If we find something that's, if you don't know if it's tahir or tuhur, or if it's najis or tuhur, inshallah, we'll discuss that next week. It's time for the adhan now, inshallah, and get ready for salah. Any questions before we go? If it's like the complete Arabic mushaf, it's preferred to make wudu, inshallah, or be on tahara. If it has tafsir in it, explanation or translation like other languages in it, that's not considered mushaf. So you can use it, you can hold it. It's preferably to be in wudu if you're able to, but for those who aren't able to, for example, that's an alternative for them. Or your phone, for example, because your phone is not like also not considered the mushaf in a sense, because the mushaf is the physical Quran that's all Arabic from the beginning to end without outside words other than the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you have tafsir in it, if you have translation in it, these other things, it's not considered mushaf or Quran in that sense completely. As a Muslim, it's preferable to be on a state of tahara, in general. But in certain instances, it's difficult for people, or they're not able to, for example, and then you have this type of permissions from some scholars that you can use these other sources, especially for somebody who's like a hafid or memorizer, or trying to memorize, or trying to not to forget, or trying to read, and they say that it might be difficult for them to wait, especially for some sisters, for example, sometimes for like long periods not to touch the mushaf, so they have these alternatives. Like just for his recitation, you mean? Or to hold? Yeah, if he's just reviewing it like without touching the mushaf, it's fine. Yeah, on the computer. Yeah, inshallah. It's preferred to have wudu, yes. It's ibadah. When you make wudu with the correct intention, you're getting rewards. And every time you wash up your sins, or you're washing away your sins as well. And, like the Prophet said that nobody is keen to protect it or be upon it all the time except the mu'min, right? لا يحافظ عليه إلا مؤمنا. Like the mu'min is the one who's always keen to be on the state of wudu, for our salat, when we go to bed at night, because it's spiritual. It's showing that you have a spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're actually thinking about being in a state of purity, so it's very encouraged to make wudu before going to sleep at night, because your soul is getting lifted up, and it might not come back, so you'd like to be in a state of purification if possible. Alright, Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka. Yes, we're going to pray Isha now, inshallah. We're in a couple minutes, I think. طيب, barakallahu feekum.